Hi, my name's Carter, and I climb trees. Illegal ones, specifically. Let's back up. So there's a cemetery in Indianapolis called Crown Hill. You may not know this, but it's the burial grounds of President Benjamin Harrison and gangster John Dillinger. Less famous, but arguably as important, is the 15 acres directly north of the burial grounds, known as the Crown Hill North Woods. With trees over 300 years old, this woods remains the last stand of old-growth forest in the city of Indianapolis. Now keep in mind that the state of Indiana was only ratified around 200 years ago, making these trees older than our statehood itself. Over hundreds of nearly undisturbed years, the Crown Hill Woods has amassed an amazing amount of biodiversity. It's so diverse, in fact, that an ecological assessment done by Ball State University included excerpts like, "This diverse site ranks among the most biologically diverse sites of this type that we have studied." They use the word diverse twice in the same sentence. And it's not even a long sentence. But between its multitude of microclimates and habitats, the Crown Hill North Woods is made up of at least 47 native species of trees and shrubs, which in turn support an array of herbaceous plants, fungi, and animals, some of them endangered, like the Indiana bat and the eastern box turtle. Talk about Crossroads of America. But the thing is, just 250 years ago, the entire state of Indiana, from top to bottom, was covered in similar forest systems. As the story goes, they were cut down to the last remaining fragments we have now. And these fragments can add up to what we can describe as our natural heritage, merely an ember salvaged from a once great bonfire. Was it just for our ancestors to pave over these ecosystems? Ecosystems that were actively inhabited and valued by indigenous people? Maybe not. But we can't change the past. We can, however, preserve what remains from the same injustice. And in the spring of 2017, the glowing ember of Indianapolis was set to be snuffed. The United States Department of Veterans Affairs had purchased the Crown Hill North Woods with the intent to construct a mausoleum that would hold the urns of 2,500 veterans. And this would require the interior of the forest to be clear-cut. So I guess the woods time was up. There was no other way this could be done, no extra space, no, say, adjacent field of open land directly next to the cemetery. Oh wait, just kidding, that was exactly the situation. And there was no surprise that the local community had protested this demolition for years. The Crown Hill Woods had been historically open for public hiking, and the locals had a close connection to it. Over the 2-year planning phase of this mausoleum, protests were held, public comments were submitted, and the community rose up to protect their natural heritage. And even State Senator Joe Donnelly, Representative Andre Carson, and the mayor of Indianapolis, Joe Hogsett, spoke out against the site of construction. The VA had every opportunity to avoid this demolition and this public backlash, but was so powerful that they could afford to ignore it. Now at the time, I was 15 years old, and I felt powerless in a world that was being slowly ground down in the gears of development. As a primitive skills practitioner, a forager, and an herbalist, I spent my time in the forests and fields. From identifying edible plants and mushrooms to listening to the calls of birds, I immersed myself in the beautiful nuances of the natural world that most people are unaware of. This forest and this world was my home. But this lifestyle came with an intrinsic sadness, because time and time again, I would come back to a foraging spot or a patch of woods to find heavy machinery in its place. I didn't understand how developers could be so blind to the value of nature, and I was done standing by as the ecosystems I found sacred were desecrated and destroyed. So before the sun rose, on March 13th, 2017, a group of 12 activists, some of them veterans, and one of them me, crawled underneath the fence into the Crown Hill Cemetery.
Okay, so these police are possibly here to forcibly remove us, I'm not sure, but they're approaching. I think they are, so I'm gonna stop taking video and go back up and rappel.
Yes, that's 15-year-old me strapped into a homemade single rope ascender system halfway up the trunk of an old growth black cherry tree. Yes. Honestly, I don't know which crime was worse, criminal trespassing or filming vertically. Realistically, the goal of our final stand was to gather media attention, to show the world the injustice of Crown Hill. But all I was thinking was that I'm going to stay in this tree until its safety is guaranteed. I was afraid of being arrested, yes, but this fear was overpowered by the vision of stumps filling the landscape to my left. So we sat. We sat, talked, conversed, and picketed for hours in the snow and the wind. Supporters outside the fence were kind enough to bring us snacks and hot chocolate, which I would raise up in a 5-gallon bucket. But as the day grew late and our energy began to falter, something amazing happened. The United States Department of Veterans Affairs announced that they would stop all construction until further notice. And less than 2 months later, they moved their site of construction to none other than this. Ladies and gentlemen, the Crown Hill Northwoods stands today. All of this pressure from the local community, legislators, and activists had amalgamated into real-world change. Our group was not the only factor in determining the fate of this historic forest. It was but the straw that broke the camel's back. There were no rules or laws to protect the Crown Hill Northwoods, so we took it upon ourselves to act outside of the rules. Everybody in this room has an issue that you care about deeply, something that resonates with your experiences or your values, something that you long to see changed. Whether it be providing reparations to marginalized communities, improving the quality of education at your child's school system, or saving an old growth forest, you have the power to take action. I knew this as well, as this was a major victory for the city of Indianapolis. For me, it was much more. I no longer had to be the victim. I, even as a teenager, could stand up against injustice, and my actions could have an influence in my sphere of the world. If 12 stubborn tree lovers can shift the actions of one of the most politically influential organizations in the US government, imagine your potential to disrupt injustice in your world. So take action. Break the rules. Climb your own tree.